Good morning. My name is Marty Kaiser with Greater Orlando Realty in Orlando, Florida. This is a continuation of our webinar series to go over topics of interest to prospective customers. Today we're going to do something slightly different, and that is, how do you evaluate a neighborhood? And what I mean by that is, whether you're a prospective purchaser or you're thinking of placing your home for sale, how do we actually evaluate the neighborhood? This is probably one of the most overlooked and crucial processes in terms of buyer selection of property, as well as sellers determining how to properly price and evaluate their property, make it as appealing as they can to prospective customers. Some of the benchmarks that I use, and I spend a little bit more time in not only doing the research, but explaining this to my customers, are I study the neighborhood from a long-term perspective. That is, for my statistical compilation, I go back a year, but I actually look for my own reference longer than that. And what I'm looking for is not only the desirability of the neighborhood from a statistical perspective, but actually what is the true data showing me. And what this means exactly is that we look at how many are selling per month in a particular neighborhood, what's the rate of appreciation in that neighborhood, and along with that, how many properties are presently for sale. So we carefully look at that data because we want to establish is what's a normal time frame for inventory in that neighborhood. So for example, if you had 6 homes for sale in a neighborhood, and over the past 6 months, you had 6 homes that have actually sold, what that means is that you're averaging 1 sale per month, and you've got 6 homes for sale. So that means that you have an inventory level of 6 months. Well, in a normal, what we call balanced market, inventory levels usually hover between 3 and 4 months. So in the situation that I just presented, those statistics are slightly in favor of purchasers. So if a purchaser was looking at that neighborhood, they would probably come in with a little bit more aggressive offer in terms of wanting to negotiate a little bit more. As a seller, you have to evaluate that and be aware that your neighborhood's not quite as popular as some other neighborhoods are, and take that into consideration when you're pricing your neighborhood. That terminology is what we call an absorption rate, and it can vary greatly. For example, you might read on media that Orlando in general has a low level of inventory in certain price ranges, and it's a very strong market. And that's probably true from a large term perspective, but you have to actually look at each neighborhood to determine the strengths or weaknesses of a particular. Now, what goes into effect in coming up with these statistical points is things like how's the road access, convenience to employers and major attractions, what are the schools rated, how is that neighborhood perceived as being safe to live in, how are other homes in the neighborhood being maintained, and things of that nature. So all these have a tremendous emphasis on how that neighborhood is actually looked at and how its statistical data is. This is a very underlooked category, and it's something that I highly recommend that my customers share some time with me and let me explain this to them. Some of the time, they may choose to look in different type of neighborhoods. Other times, they'll just let that impact how their negotiating strategies are. I hope this was informative in terms of neighborhood evaluation. We will be doing our next seminar in a slightly different fashion, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks very much and have a great week.